It really doesn't matter if you're a professional photographer or just someone that owns a digital SLR camera. The one thing that we all have in common is that our equipment is extremely expensive and sometimes even more expensive to maintain. Something that you'll probably find more and more as you use your camera more frequently is that your camera is going to collect dirt, and that dirt can be really detrimental to your image quality and your images. It can create dust spots, smears and other things like that, which you can remove in post-production off of your images. But as all photographers know just too well, we all aim to ensure that we have to do the minimal amount of post-production editing when it comes to our work. So a big part of that is making sure that we maintain our equipment to the highest possible standard. And it really all starts in preparation, making sure that we clean our cameras properly using the right equipment before we even go out and attempt to start our shoots. Now in this video I'm going to be showing you how to professionally clean your camera lenses. Now in this tutorial we're going to be using two really good tools to do that. One is a lens pen and the other is a rocket blower. Now just to give you a brief background on what these do, a rocket blower basically you squeeze it and it just blows clean air at whatever you're pointing at. Now notice that I said clean air because what you'll notice is on the bottom of my rocket blower, if I just point this at you'll see it has a filter. Now that filter basically ensures that I'm not blowing dust back at my camera lens or my camera sensor, depending on what I'm cleaning. Okay, so I know for a fact I'm always cleaning, I'm not blowing any more debris or more dust, more dirt onto the surface of my lens. The second thing that we're going to be using is our lens pen. Now a lens pen is probably the most important part of the process because this is when you actually make physical contact with your lens. Now basically on one end you have a brush and that's basically got extremely fine bristles, so when you do actually make contact with your lens, because it's so fine, you're not going to scratch it, you're not going to run any risks of doing any damage to your lens. Now on the other end you're going to notice that you have a swab, and this is very special particulates which are designed to remove more stubborn dust particles, debris and remove smears from your lens. Now before we actually begin this video tutorial, I want to just give you a bit of advice. As I said, it's very important that we prepare and we make sure we keep our equipment in the best possible condition. And a big part of that is investing in the right equipment. So what I suggest to all of my students is that they use UV filters on all of their lenses, which basically is this. It's just something that you can screw on and screw off of your lens. And just to show you, this is a filter. This is not a UV filter, but it's basically, they all look the same except a UV filter is clear. Now there are a lot of different types of filters that you can buy. For example, this is a neutral density filter. A neutral density filter, as you can kind of see there, is basically just a really dark piece of glass that you can attach to the end of your lens, and that will basically affect your exposure. So you can basically use really long exposures, let's say 30 seconds exposure in really bright sunlight, which is really great for landscapes. You can buy circular polarizing filters which do something completely different, and the list goes on. There's so many different types of filters you can buy, and I think they're really cool and a great investment because, again, it's like I said, you're doing it really takes your imagery to another level. When you really understand how to use your camera, you can start to do what they used to do a long time ago before Photoshop and try and manipulate that image even more in camera. So it's really cool and something, it's kind of a new world to photography when you first discover filters. And they're definitely the two I recommend you look into. Neutral density filters and circular polarizers. They really are the two, in my opinion, that can make the biggest impact on your photography. Now, the one I am mainly talking about right now is UV filters. Now, UV filters, there's nothing in this box because it's attached to the lens, but a UV filter is different to every other type of filter because it does absolutely nothing. UV filters are basically just clear glass, okay? So you might be wondering, why would I want to invest in a UV filter? Well, it's really simple because, let me give you an example of this camera. This is a Nikon D7000. I have attached to it one of my lenses, which is I think it's a 70 to 300 millimeter Nikon VR lens. This lens alone is almost £1,000, okay? So when you basically buy a lens, what you're really paying for is glass, really expensive glass, okay, which has been coated in very special chemicals and various things like that to get the best image quality. The problem is that when we are out using our cameras, the most exposed and vulnerable part of our camera is our lens, okay? Now, if we're walking through an area which has a thick, dense foliage, there's a very high chance that something could scratch our glass, our lens. And if that does happen, it can be extremely expensive to fix, and sometimes it's cheaper just to buy a new lens. And as I said, lenses are expensive. This one, for example, costs almost £1,000. So that kind of brings me to my point as to why it's such a good idea to do exactly what I've done and attach this UV filter to the end of your lens. Because what it means is that if something does damage your lens, it's not going to damage the camera lens, it's going to damage the UV filter, because you're putting something between the camera lens and the outside environment. So I can just unscrew this UV filter and throw it away. I can get another one. I don't want to spend another £1,000 to replace or fix my camera lens. So it's extremely important consideration, and UV filters are very cheap. I've actually seen some for just a few pounds on Amazon. I don't recommend you buy those, okay? The reason I make that point is because, as I said before, when you buy a camera lens, what you're basically paying for is glass, very expensive glass. And I don't really think it makes sense to buy a really cheap piece of glass and put that in front of a really expensive, high quality lens. It just doesn't make sense, because you have all this fancy glass and then you're putting a really low quality, low grade glass in front of it. It's going to affect your image quality. And that is why I spend a little bit more money and I invest in Hoya filters, okay? Hoya filters. These are, without doubt, in my opinion, the highest quality filters on the market. They cost a little bit more, but UV filters are very cheap anyway, regardless. And regardless of the price, it's always going to be cheaper than buying a brand new lens. Now, the final point I want to make is a lot of people will, when they first get new camera equipment, if it's the first time they've ever owned a professional camera, they don't always think, how do I clean it properly? Like properly. And sometimes they'll take a cloth, or they'll dab something in water or a tissue even, and they'll wipe your lens. Now that's the worst thing you could ever do. You're destroying your camera equipment because, for example, a tissue has a very rough texture. Alright? Now if you take that to your lens, it's very, very likely that you're going to scratch it. But let me tell you something that you're definitely doing. As I said, you're paying for a very expensive piece of glass, and that glass is coated in a very special layer of chemicals, which is designed to handle different kinds of light as it enters your camera, to ensure you don't have any issues and you have the highest quality image possible. Now when you're wiping it with something rough, or doing it in the wrong way, or the wrong kind of liquid such as water or something, what you're doing is you're literally destroying that coating of chemicals. You're basically destroying it, which is an incredible shame, because you're basically destroying your lens, and you're going to get much lower and lower image quality as time goes on. So this is why this tutorial is so important, and it's a great lesson to learn, because I actually know some people that will take their camera equipment to a store or even send it to Nikon to get cleaned. And this is fine for people that have that, a little bit of, that don't mind spending a little bit more money more frequently to get their cameras professionally cleaned. But in my experience, because if you are a professional photographer, you're going to be using your camera on a very frequent basis, it's even more important that you learn how to do these things yourself, so you can maintain it and keep your equipment in the highest possible condition. Okay, so I've got my Nikon 18 to 135mm lens here, and we're going to be using this as an example. We're going to clean. So let's remove the lens hood and then the lens cap. Now we can clean the lens. So what we want to do, first of all, is we want to use our rocket blur. Now on this end, the back end of a rocket blur, you have your filter, and this is very important because it prevents dust getting into the chamber of your rocket blur. So you're never going to blow more dust or debris back onto the surface of whatever you're cleaning, whether it's your camera lens or your camera sensor, which is very important. Now to do this properly, we need to position the lens slightly at an angle, and we're going to blow the rocket blur in the same direction. So we're blowing dust off of the surface of the lens rather than back onto it or in any other direction. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to rotate the lens at the same time. And what that's going to do is it's just going to remove any loose dust or debris from the surface of the lens, because when we start making contact with it, you want to avoid scratching the lens, because obviously when you start making contact with it, if there is a piece of dust or something like that on it, if it moves around as you're cleaning the lens, the surface of the lens, it could actually scratch it. So it's very important, the first step when we use the rocket blur, to just remove any loose dust or anything like that. Now if you still have something stuck on, a more stubborn piece of dust or something on the surface of your lens, the next step is our handy lens pen. So what we're first going to do is we're going to use the brush end of this. Now this is very, very fine bristles, so you're not going to be in any danger or risk of actually scratching your lens using this, because it's very, very fine. Now all we need to do, again, position the lens at an angle, and we're just going to run it gently over the surface of our lens to again remove any more stubborn pieces of debris or dust that we couldn't remove with our rocket blur. Again, just rotate the lens as you're doing this. Now at this stage, we have made some contact with the surface of the lens, but if you have any smears, or if you took it to the breach and you got some sort of sea spray on your lens or something like that, you're going to have smears, especially if you move the surface of the lens and you look at it in different types of light. You should be able to see if you have some smears or something like that on it. To clean that, we're going to use the other end of the lens pen. So if I remove the cap, to reveal my swab, and what I'm going to do is in a circular clockwise motion I'm going to clean my lens. So again, holding the lens at an angle, going to make actual contact with the surface of the lens now, and I'm just going to, in a circular clockwise motion, clean the surface of my lens. And again, I'm just going round. Now if there's a particular spot of your lens, you can focus on that area, or you can just clean the entire lens. You may need to go over this several times before you get it clean, depending on how dirty it is. But once you've done that, your lens should be pretty clean. Now, of course, your lens has two ends, okay? So dust can collect on either end of your lenses, especially when you're changing lenses in the field and your lens and your camera is exposed. Both ends can actually collect dust and debris. So I'm going to replace my lens cap, and I'm going to flip my lens over. I'm going to remove my lens cap here, and we're just going to position and basically repeat the process. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial, and thank you very much for watching. I'd just like to encourage you to visit our official community website, simpletut.com. This is where we post all of our tutorials, including that on web development, computing, and even photography, but much more. Some of our most popular tutorials include building a MySQL user registration system, but we also have PHP classes. I've shown you in videos how to develop your own responsive website layouts, content management systems. There's tutorials on social networking, e-commerce, and much more. But this is a fantastic learning resource, and it does not stop there. We also have a Ask a Question area on our website where you can post a question about this or any other tutorial, or perhaps even a project of your own. We also have a blog and a freebies section which you can use to access even more content. Now, before you go, I'd just like to encourage you to actually like our Facebook page, because this is a fantastic way for you to stay in contact with us. As we release new freebies, new tutorials, we will post them on our Facebook page, and you can even make suggestions for future tutorials all on our Facebook page. But before you go, I would just like to encourage you to check out one of our latest projects, cssmenucreator.com. Now, this is a fantastic resource for you. It cuts your development time and makes building websites even easier, because what it does is it writes the code for you when it comes to CSS menus. You can select from our growing range of pre-built CSS menus, use the built-in application to actually build your menu and create your different options for your menu, and then you can actually install that menu on your own website within Dreamweaver or whatever web application you're using to build your website. You just simply copy and paste the code into the website, and we have video tutorials show you how to do it on a step-by-step basis. I would just like to say that if you would like to make a contribution to our project, then we really would appreciate it. There is a donation button on simpletut.com which you can use to make a contribution to a project. This is also a great opportunity for me to tell you about our official website, siteeasy.com, and there'll be a link in the description of this video. This is where we sell a huge range of pre-built websites and scripts and offer custom web design services. Some of our pre-built websites include a pre-built social networking website, e-commerce, content management. These all include free installations, and we offer much more, such as property listings or file upload. So it's a great resource for anyone looking for a one-stop solution for your project. We also offer a number of pre-built PHP scripts, which is growing all the time. And these are applications which you can incorporate into your website, such as the pre-built user registration system, digital goods for PayPal, billing systems, comment systems, contact forms, and much more. And all of these scripts can be incorporated into your existing website. They're completely pre-built, and you can simply copy and paste them and upload them to your server immediately once you've downloaded them. If you do have any questions, would like to get in touch, perhaps have a custom job, web development project you'd like us to help you with, then please get in touch using any of our websites. We have contact forms on all of our websites. You can contact us via Facebook. Again, I'd also like to recommend that you like, comment and subscribe to us on YouTube. Once again, thank you very much for watching this video. Have a great day.